Ooh! Hey everyone, welcome back to another review. This one, kind of a movie I've been looking forward to. Not like super excited for. I love the first one. The second one, I literally don't remember anything from. Like like I think I got Total Recalled, and I just don't remember anything from it. And then the third one, which we just watched, we felt pretty similar about it. So you want to get into it?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the series. I'm not like a hater, you know. I mean, it's cool. It reminds me every time I watch it of like an interesting take on dogs. That sounds weird. That sounds really weird, but just think about it. Hiccup's relationship to Toothless, which I think is actually
I guess you're right.
Side note, a really kind of rude name to name someone. Imagine if Toothless named Hiccup. He would just name him Cripple, right? Because he doesn't have a leg.
But then again, Hiccup is also kind of a weird name.
Anyway, so lukewarm with the first one. The second one really did bore me. It felt like a glorified TV special for the show, which they have a show. And so the third one, I was like, when I heard it was called The Hidden World, I was like, oh, great. Because the first and second one kind of, for me, hit the same beats on a movie sense. So when they said The Hidden World, I was like, oh, great, they're going to release another world with a bunch of dragons and shit. And so I was like, oh, great. But then when I watched it, I was like, oh, whatever, what the fuck, this is fine.
Yeah, this movie is good. I wouldn't say there's anything super special about it. The first one is obviously the best one. I mean, it's kind of undeniable. For me personally, I consider the first one like one of the best animated films of the decade, which is saying a lot because there's been a hefty amount of good animated films. But, yeah, the third one was just very safe. I think that was the biggest thing about it. There was really no risk involved with this, even, everything down to the characters, the villains, and just everything that happens is just very safe. Let's get into positives first, and then we'll end off kind of negatively.
Animation. I mean, I'm not a fan of the series, but I will suck these animators' dicks any day. These guys are phenomenal. DreamWorks has always done great work. This movie really reminded me of the innovations that Shrek 2 brought, where they like animated every individual strand of hair on the characters. There is just detailed ass shots in this movie, and they did a great job of making it look like it was filmed on a camera. Yeah. There's a lot of like cinematic camera movements, like on a dolly, which I thought was very interesting. And they overexposed some of the windows, which I was like, hey, that's a really nice touch. It makes it look really real. Yeah. And there's a scene where Toothless is playing in the sand. Whoa, the sand was amazing. Animation blew me away. Best thing about the movie, in my opinion. The only problem I have with the animation, though, is that this is not like for this movie, but just a side note, the character's design just bothers me. It reminds me of the Croods. You guys remember that? They have like the ugliest characters. But I guess they're supposed to be ugly because they're like Vikings, But other than that, animation was phenomenal, incredible. I was just dazzled the whole movie.
Yeah, totally agree.
Another positive I had was I loved the connection back to Hiccup's dad.
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
That was phenomenal in the movie. And they actually went really deep in that. Because Hiccup is now essentially in the position where his dad was. And Hiccup is an established chief. And he's now realizing the things that he hated his dad for, he's now become that. And for one, he understands it, but he also realizes that, I'm kind of right. He was kind of wrong, and now I'm going to figure out a better way to lead. And that was they had a ton of flashbacks to Hiccup and his dad, and he's figuring out things that his dad was going through, and he's finally realizing what his dad had to go through to lead the whole, clan or whatever. And so now he's kind of using those experiences as his son to figure out a better way to manage everybody. And that was great because they really incorporated the dad in an effective way without even him being in the current story.
Yeah, it wasn't some like shoot-in origin story that they made up for the movie. It made sense for his character, and that's again why this makes sense for a third film. I also thought the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless is pretty strong. It's always been like the best part of the series in my opinion, and in this film it still stays very strong and consistent, and it feels like an actual friendship type of thing, like a owner and his dog type thing. It feels very real, which is really awesome because it's a kids movie. They could have totally gone the opposite way with this thing and made it super cheesy.
But another thing they did on top of that, which was what I really liked, is that it's really sweet to see Hiccup and Toothless have that kind of dog man's best friend relationship. But what I liked in this movie is that they create a lot of parallels between Hiccup kind of growing up and 100%. Toothless growing up. For one, in the movie, Hiccup's always had that thing with that Astrid, the girl Viking. And then in this one, as you guys know by the trailer, Toothless finds the female. And they create a lot of really just compelling parallels between the newfound love that Toothless has for the dragon, but also the more mature relationship that Hiccup has with Astrid.
Yeah.
And so they kind of compare the fact that, like Hiccup's known Astrid for a long time, but Toothless has known this white dragon for a very short time, but they have a lot of parallels in terms of their romantic relationships with each other. So I thought that was really nice touch. They didn't delve into it too deeply in the movie, which I was a little disappointed by, but it's a kids movie. I don't think they'd give a shit about that.
Yeah, and also I was also really happy that they didn't go the love triangle route, because I mean obviously there's no love attraction between Hiccup and Toothless in terms like of a sexual relationship, but they still could have gone. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, I know.
But they could have still gone like a love triangle route and made it like this weird CW bullshit.
Yeah, they
thing.
could have like fought over like Hiccup and stuff like that.
It just, oh my lord! And I was very happy they did not do that.
They have a really mature kind of like Hiccup's like, I think you should go out and do this on your own. They start to realize that they can't be together all the time because they're getting older.
And it makes Hiccup seem like a real person because he's the leader. A leader would do this. A leader would try to make the mature decision. Again, to move on to another positive I have, the entire kind of synopsis of the movie and how it goes along, I really liked. Mm-hmm. It's paced pretty well, and I really like how, even though this is like the third film in a series, it feels necessary. It didn't feel unnecessary, which I really, really liked, especially with like, as you were saying, with the title like The Hidden World and the trailer with all these colorful dragons and it looks like a toy commercial. It really actually worked and it felt very necessary, and it felt like I would have kind of missed out if I didn't watch this movie, which I really liked. And the ending is very satisfying. It's a very good ending to this trilogy.
Yeah, I think the development of the whole story was really integral to the canon, which I can't say about the TV show. I've seen some of the TV show, and I mean, if you watch all three movies, you're really not missing out much in terms of the TV show.
I haven't seen it.
But this third movie, surprisingly, is a pretty, if you want to, delve deeper into the world of the dragons that they introduced in this movie, I think watching the third one would add a lot of value to that, because they certainly develop everything in a really interesting way that I think if you're a fan of the whole series, you really need to watch.
I think our last positive is the villain. The villain, a lot of people were kind of complaining about the villain. I've heard a lot. I actually, and I think Gavin agrees with me on this, I really liked the villain. He kind of reminded me like Winter Soldier almost, where every time he was on screen, he was a very threatening presence. And you felt like, oh crap, something's about to go down, However, to transition us to negatives now, the way the villain's kind of arc ends is terrible. It is really bad. I don't want to make any spoilers or anything, but he was built up as like a super powerful guy, and then by the end of the movie, he's like pathetic.
The thing I didn't like about the second one was that the climactic fight was a fight just between strength, and it's just like brute strength, which a lot of action movies suffer from. They lead up the movie to a big action fight, but the action fight has nothing to do with the themes of the movie itself. And what I liked about this villain in the beginning was that he outsmarted the characters. Exactly. It wasn't about strength, and it wasn't about who has the biggest dragons or the best weapons. He was outsmart. He was figuring out what the heroes do and their flaws and using that to his advantage, which was cool. It's not like he's just strong or he can shoot really well. He's smart. But the way they ended, it's just he's not smart, but he's not strong either. He just kind of ends. In fact, the ending to him is not even really an attack on him. He's kind of inadvertently removed from the story at the end. And so that was a really big negative for me, especially since they built him up to be, the brainiac kind of villain. And that would have been really interesting to see how he gets into the characters' heads, but he never does at all.
Yeah.
Another negative for me was the title of the fucking movie, The Hidden World. All right, so the second movie, they find a hidden world with dragons, and that's, spoiler, where Hiccup meets his mom. And that was a big thing about the second one, This one, it's called The Hidden World, but the Hidden World is glossed over, and we only see it for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, there's like nothing about the Hidden World in this.
They go, spoiler, they go to the Hidden World, and then they get the fuck out of there, and then that's it. I mean, I guess they didn't want to repeat themselves too much, but I mean, if you're going to title it The Hidden World, and you're going to have a Hidden World, I mean, at least go through with it. All right, so How to Train Your Dragon 3, I mean, a positive movie experience, but I don't think my socks were really blown off.
No, definitely not. I would say, you know, if you're a parent, seeing if this movie is good, go watch it with your kids. It'll be a good time for both you guys. Nothing exceptional here, but passable, not terrible, which is the best thing I can say about it. You know, it's not bad, especially for a third movie.
A third movie in it really felt like a kids series, and for this to be the third movie in this kids series, that's pretty good.
Yes.
They did a pretty good job.
Overall, what would you give it?
I would give How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World I give it a very, very high 6. Almost a 7, but I don't think it's that exceptional.
I am definitely on the same boat with you. A strong 6 for me as well. It's a very good movie, and it has definitely more positives than negatives. But again, it has no X factor. It has the unfortunate thing that it is in the same trilogy as the first How to Train Your Dragon, so comparisons will be made, and it just doesn't stand even close to the first one in terms of a wow factor. Other than that, yeah, I would say go check it out if you have nothing to do this week. Anyways, thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the review. What are we gonna review next? A Netflix movie or something?
The Boy Who Could Harness the Wind or something like that.
The Mahershala Ali, right? Or no?
You're as crazy as the people on Twitter. Right. I'm not Lawrence Fishburne.